you're marketing a product and you're marketing an experience. The way that I like to think about it is like when I get done furnishing a property and before I put it on the market, I think to myself, is this a place where I would live myself? Nobody wants to spend money and stay overnight where they don't feel comfortable.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 48 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com. Hello and welcome to episode 147. You may remember my guest today from this short-term vacation rental panel that we did back at the annual conference in February. Frederick Kidd is a licensed realtor in Illinois, and he's been managing and operating short-term rentals and Airbnbs for the past 8 years. He personally owns and operates 6 short-term rentals in the West Michigan area, as well as the Chicago metro market. He also provides full-service management of short-term rentals and rental properties through his company, Silver Lakes Property Management, which is currently managing 21 short-term rentals for clients located in Benton Harbor, Grand Haven, Spring Lake, Manistee, Michigan, as well as Silver Lake. Frederick, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you inviting me.
I've wanted to have you on the show ever since you were on our panel. I mean, it was a big hit, everything you had to say. And it seems like Airbnb, short-term rentals, it's just a super hot topic right now.
Yeah, it is.
For investors. And we're definitely going to get into that. But I'd like to start by just asking you a little bit about yourself. You know,
Sure.
What's your background and how did you get involved in real estate investing?
Sure. Well, I was a licensed realtor in the Chicago metro area for quite a long time. And we all remember when the market crashed in 06, 07, 08. And as a realtor, I had many of my clients, they were unable to sell their properties at the time, or at least they weren't able to sell them for a profit or without taking a substantial loss. So at that time, we turned to renting them out in the short term of hoping to, buy a little time until the market recovered, where they could either sell the properties for what they paid for it, or possibly, make a little bit money, or just as stop the bleeding is what we refer to it as. And as that facet of my business progressed, I found that helping landlords fill their vacancies in the metro market was a very lucrative opportunity for me. So I shifted my focus from helping buyers and sellers to helping landlords and tenants. And I did that for 4 or 5 years before turning to the short-term rental market as a way of generating more income for my landlords and ultimately myself.
So this was in the Chicago market
Correct.
That you were in, and during the recession, you were renting out the properties that were having a hard time being sold. Were they Correct. Short-term rentals or long-term rentals?
At that time, it was long-term rentals. Mm-hmm. So typical 12, 24-month leases, mostly on the north side of Chicago, which is my comfort zone. It's where I'd lived and worked for past 20 years. I got into the short-term market just relatively on a whim-ish. One of my landlord clients in the Chicago area approached me and told me that he had 2 houses in Benton Harbor, Michigan. He was unhappy with the person who was renting it out for them in a short-term vacation basis, and asked if I'd be interested in taking over the job. And I did that for 2 or 3 years, was relatively successful at it. At least I believe I was. We upped the, if my memory serves me correctly, we upped their gross revenue about 15% the first year, and an additional 7% the second, and another 5% the third. And during my course of doing this for them, I was seeing how much revenue that these properties were generating, and was curious as if I could translate that into additional revenue for my landlord clients in the Chicago area.
So what were you seeing in Benton Harbor? What had it been renting for, and what were you able to get in rents for doing short term?
Well, these two properties in particular were right on Lake Michigan, and they were sister properties, meaning we could rent them both to the same group, same family, same organization, or we could rent them individually. But if I recall correctly, when I first took over, it was getting a good revenue a night. Weekdays were $300 a night. Weekends we charge $350 to $375, and we did pretty well. Occupancy wise, it wasn't that great. I feel that their previous manager had too many to manage and didn't really focus on this particular client's properties. So their occupancy was low. So, with anything, it's kind of like the Hawthorne effect. You've got somebody looking at it, productivity is going to go up. And I think that's really where we attributed our first year success was, I was concentrating on it, making sure it was advertised in the correct venues, following up with every inquiry, answering every single question, and then taking care of these customers, from the moment they booked, before they arrived, giving them proper information, and then follow up after they left.
Now, was this before Airbnb and VRBO?
Yes.
So this was kind of before all of that took off.
Yeah, it was definitely before Airbnb. Our main vehicle for renting when I first started was we had our own website, and we advertised on the HomeAway VRBO family of sites. And that's where we received the majority of our bookings. And I want to say it was about 3 to 4 years before Airbnb kind of took off. And at that point, we added Airbnb into the advertising mix, and Airbnb significantly overtook the HomeAway VRBO within a matter of a year and a half.
Really? And why is that? Why did Airbnb have so much success?
I would attribute it to the ease of use of their website. They spent an enormous amount of money marketing themselves, and, they created a buzz for themselves, not only with their advertising, but, as a business model, it was getting a lot of attention. So people learned about Airbnb very quickly. If they went back and forth between the Airbnb sites versus the HomeAway site, you'd see Airbnb was much more intuitive, less strings and hoops to jump through, and it just, popularity wise, I feel like that's how it took off.
Yeah. And then just let's go take a step back and lay the groundwork. What are we talking about when we talk about Airbnb, short-term vacation rentals? How does that differ from our typical rental property?
Well, short-term vacation rental, pardon me, is it's a furnished rental property. It's almost, think of it like you're going to a hotel, except it's somebody's either apartment, condominium, single family home. You walk through the door, it's fully furnished. You're really, if it's done right, as a traveler, you're not wanting for anything. You really just come in, set your suitcase down, and go about your day. In a long-term rental, of course, you're dealing with moving your stuff, moving it in, and you're there for, I guess the biggest difference is a 12-month lease, or, shorter depending on the terms you negotiate. But, short-term, it could be as little as a night, could be 2-3 days, could be a week, could be a month. Most of my folks with my properties, my managed properties, I have a minimum of 1 day during the week, 3-day minimum on the weekends. And we experience a good occupancy rate taking that model. Others with the short term tend to especially in the summertime, say, you have 1 week you need to book. I mean, that's your minimum. And they're successful with it. But I've found that, the way that we operate ours, on the 1 night to 3 night mix, it really increases our revenue.
Really? So you're able to get more people in.
Correct.
In a shorter period of time.
Correct.
But because they're staying for a shorter period, they're paying more per night.
Correct.
Sounds like. So let's go back to Benton Harbor. So
Okay.
you were brought on to try the short-term rental management in Benton Harbor, but you were in Chicago, so you were doing it remotely.
Yes.
I'd imagine.
Yes.
Does that mean every time someone stayed there, you would drive a couple hours to go clean
No.
and get it prepped? I mean, how did you set up a remote management system for your short-term rental?
Well, with that property, I was lucky, as the owners already had cleaning people in place, and they had a maintenance person in place that could be on call if there ever was a problem. That's not to say that I never had to drive there to go take care of a problem, but we were fortunate to have those pieces in place, and it was just managing the processes. In terms of cleaning, what your schedule is in advance. You communicate that with your staff, and make sure it's done. And it's pretty much smooth sailing, unless somebody calls in sick, which happens.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. You were managing the process,
Correct,
which is finding the person who's going to stay there, marketing to them,
correct,
setting up the payment structure,
correct,
and all that. And I want to get into that because I want to get into kind of the nuts and bolts
sure.
of it. But before we do, let's talk about the why.
Okay.
And I know we talked about this during the panel, and it was very compelling. It's like people who rent their property in a long-term to a long-term tenant, can make very good money, and there's plenty of reasons why that makes sense. How does doing short-term rentals exceed the amount of money you can make from a long-term tenant?
Well, it comes down to a cost per night. If you have an apartment that rents for $1,000 a month, what's your daily rate on that? It's not much. But if you think of it in terms of you're going to go and stay at a hotel, even a cheap price hotel is $100 a night. So, if you're renting your apartment out for $1,000 a month for 12 months, there's your $12,000. But if you're renting it out for $100 a night, you're making $3,000 a month. And, now you're up to $36,000 a year. You've tripled your money.
Yeah. So, and in your experience, is that actually doable?
Yes. Yes, it is.
If done right, I'd
if
imagine.
done right, and that is correct. If you do it right, and you look at it not as you're a landlord now, you need to look at yourself as a hospitality professional. Meaning, you're not just waiting for the phone to call and say, my toilet's leaking, come fix it. You're creating an environment, and you're creating an experience for your traveler in order for them to really enjoy your space and ultimately get a great review, where other travelers are going to see that and they go, I can expect that same thing. I want to go there.
Yeah, so it's a different mindset.
Yes.
You're not just leasing out or renting out a property and let your tenants live there and take care of it themselves.
Correct.
You're actually taking care of the environment.
Exactly.
So that people feel welcome when they walk in.
Right.
And then the next person who comes in feels just as welcomed.
Right.
Because you've got it in there and cleaned it up and done everything
Correct.
that needs to be taken care of.
Correct.
Yeah. And then definitely the better vacation rentals that I've stayed at, when you walk in, you feel like, oh, this is I feel like I'm at home in a way.
Yeah.
So give me some examples then, because you manage these properties for other owners.
Correct.
Give me some examples of the successes that you've seen in doing these short-term rentals.
Oh boy. Well, let's.
And do we define success just by, oh, they're making this much more money, or are there other ways to define that success when it comes to short-term rentals?
Well, we can do both.
I see you got your computer here.
I do.
You got some
I do.
numbers.
So I'm going to take one building in particular that I own. It's a 2-unit building. When I purchased it, it was your typical long-term lease, 12-month leases. It was making, one apartment was making $700 a month. The other was making $750 a month. We turned both of the units into short-term rentals. The first year that both units were online as furnished rentals, that building grossed $68,000.
Wow, $68,000 gross. Mm-hmm. So we're talking $34,000 aside.
Yeah. It was making $28,000.
And so you went from $28,000
to $67,000.
renting out each side for $750.
Yeah.
To $68,000. So that's a huge increase.
Yeah.
If you are thinking of leaving your W-2 job and becoming a full-time real estate investor, one of the greatest costs you must consider is healthcare for you and your family. When I made this transition 5 years ago, I found the whole healthcare insurance process to be confusing and frustrating. That's why I'm glad I met Chad Creasy at RCB & Associates. Chad is a professional health insurance agent who helps real estate investors and small business owners understand and choose their best healthcare options. And best of all, his services are covered by the insurance company and won't cost you a dime. If you're expecting a change in your healthcare insurance coverage for any reason, then you owe it to yourself to contact Chad Creasy at rcbassociatesllc.com. Now, but there's more expense. Well, is there more expense in doing that? Your expense ratio seems like it might be higher because you've got to pay for the furniture.
It is.
And the furnishings and then the cleanings and all of those things.
Correct.
So let's talk about the expenses then.
Sure.
Because you don't just buy a property and turn it into an Airbnb. You got to put some thought into it and some money into it. So what do you typically do when you buy and using your duplex as an example?
Sure.
What kind of money did you put into it? What all did you have to do to get that ready?
For this particular building, I budgeted $15,000 for renovations and furnishings to get it up and going.
$15,000 both for each side,
right?
Or
So
just all together?
So $30,000 total to get the building up and functioning. But I did it in stages. I did one apartment first, got that done, up and running, and then gained a little of my capital, working capital from my revenue from the short-term rentals, and then brought that to the next unit and did the same thing. But in terms of expenses, yeah, you're right. I'm paying for all the utilities, gas, electric, cable, water, sewer,
you need
garbage.
You need to pay for that internet, the Wi-Fi, and the cable.
Correct.
Because that's expected.
Yeah.
In most cases.
Yeah. Again, your travelers are showing up. They're not going to. They want to feel like they're at home, and so you provide everything for them, so they don't have to worry about anything except enjoying themselves and relax. So, what it really kind of works out to between debt service and utilities for these properties, it comes out to about 50% of my gross.
Okay. So your expense ratio is 50%.
Correct.
Now, but 50% of a much higher amount. So
Correct.
50% of that 68,000. Again, that's 34,000 net operating income.
Yes.
Which is still higher than the 28. Where were you? 28,000.
Yeah, 2850.
2850. Gross that you were getting. So you're way ahead doing this.
Correct.
You had a $30,000 upfront investment, but that seems to pay itself back within 2 to 3 years. You talk about debt service, and you made me think of banks and whether they're willing to lend on this type of property.
Yeah.
So what have you experienced in getting loans to buy properties that you're going to turn into short-term rentals?
Well, I've been pretty lucky. I got to be honest. When I first, the building, the 2-unit that we've been discussing, when I bought that, I originally bought it as, I was going to live in one and rent out the other. But as life happens, things changed. So my expectations of what I was going to use it for changed. So at that time, I just had a typical mortgage in place. When I bought it, it was typical 20% down, and it was easy. A couple years down the line, I found a pretty aggressive lender who wanted me to refinance. Knew what I was doing and offered me a tremendous rate on a 15-year fixed, and I pulled the trigger. So I've been lucky. The latest acquisition, I've been working with a smaller bank out of the Manistee area. Shout out to West Shore Bank, and they've been great. I've been working with a gentleman by the name of Jordan Soloway. And, we sat down, had some very nice conversations. And, I bring him my numbers, my expectations, my track record. And, they've been willing to take the risks along with me when I go to acquire new properties.
And they're fully aware of what you plan on doing with properties. Yeah. That's great. So you have a partner and a lender.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Are there special products out there for this type of thing, or is it just a typical rental property mortgage that you're getting?
Typical rental property mortgage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one project that we're working on is it was a commercial space in the Manistee, Michigan area. So that falls into commercial paper. Mm-hmm. A little bit higher rate, but that's to be expected.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts of it all. As a manager of this, and I know you've talked about some of this already, but what are the things you need to keep in mind when you're managing short-term rentals?
The number one is you're marketing a product, and you're marketing an experience. So when you're setting a place up, you can't just, throw the couch that you inherited from your grandmother that's been sitting in the basement. You just can't do it. So creating an attractive space, comfortable space. The way that I like to think about it is like when I get done furnishing a property and before I put it on the market, I think to myself, is this a place where I would live myself? And if the answer is yes, then I'm like, great, I'm ready to go. If it's not, start looking around, try and figure out, what it is that you can do to make it more comfortable for your traveler. That in mind as well, it's got to be clean. Clean. Nobody wants to spend money and stay overnight where they don't feel comfortable. They get creeped out if there's, dirt or dust or, the bathroom isn't quite as tidy.
Cockroaches.
Or cockroaches.
Yeah.
You rodents.
I stayed in a place down south and we had some cockroaches, but I kind of overlooked that.
Yeah.
It was a clean place, but we did see a couple cockroaches.
Yeah. You'll find that. But so those are the two most important things, I believe, keeping it clean and keeping it comfortable.
Now, let me ask you this, because I stay at short-term rentals with my family, and I really like it. I like staying at hotels too, but there's something nice if you're going to be there for a while to stay at a short-term rental.
Yeah.
The biggest issue for me is always the comfort of the mattress.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you have suggestions for people out there, because I've stayed in mattresses that are so soft, I just feel like I've been in a car accident after sleeping there. Yeah. What do you typically do?
Another shout out to Jonathan Stevens. I always buy brand new mattresses, brand new beds for my places. Mm-hmm. And I purchase the, medium firmness. Yeah. Because you want to be able to appeal to as many people as possible.
Not too soft, not too hard.
Right. And you've got to spend the money on the mattresses. It's kind of your bread and butter. You just said, you don't go and you sleep in a bed and you're like, that's a great space, but I didn't get a good night's sleep. Yeah. So you spend your money on the mattress, something that's going to be durable, that's going to be comfortable. And you shouldn't have any problems. Another little trick is you spend the extra money on sheets. Spend the extra money on quality pillows. Spend the extra money on quality duvet covers.
Like, do you have a type that you like? Do you go to Bed Bath & Beyond and buy a certain brand, or where do you get your quality sheets and pillows?
Well, I'm kind of a bargain shopper because, quality sheets cost some money. But, you browse your Home Goods, your TJ Maxx. Overstock.com is a great way to go. And you just look for the highest thread count as you possibly can within, your set budget.
What thread count should you not go below?
I don't go below 6.
6?
And that's 600.
600, okay.
Yeah.
So you want it to be at least 600 thread count.
Right.
Okay.
And as I'm out shopping or whatnot, I'm always on the search for high thread count quality sheets. So even if I don't have any particular need, and I find some that are in a good value, I'll buy them and warehouse them because sooner or later you're going to need them.
What are some other things that you look at, tips for making it as quality and comfortable an experience as possible for your short-term renters?
Internet service, you definitely have to have Wi-Fi. And if you don't, unless the place that you're renting out is a cabin out in the woods and you're marketing it as that solitude, travelers expect Wi-Fi. They also expect working televisions. All of the televisions in my home are smart TVs that allow people to stream their favorite channels. I pay for some extra streaming services just as a convenience.
Like, what do you pay for? Which ones?
Oh, I pay for Netflix. I pay for Amazon. I pay for Sling TV. And
now, is that a good marketing thing to say, you get Netflix, Amazon, and Sling as part of it?
I believe so, but I haven't been able to quantify it or monetize it. I started doing the Sling only because I wanted to get away from paying for cable.
Okay, so you're not doing the cable package. Right. Yeah, Sling has a good, 20, 30 channel
Right. It's
package.
almost like you have all the channels that you'd have for paying for cable, but it's in a streaming format. And I have to be honest, I haven't really had many complaints over that, about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good choices there.
Yeah.
So it is important to have some sort of cable or internet TV package, streaming package.
Yep.
Definitely the Wi-Fi. What else is necessary? Do you make sure you have plenty of toilet paper?
Oh, of course. Maybe I'm just glossing over some of the givens here, but yes, very nice linens, very nice bath towels. Provide them toilet paper. Provide them nice shampoo, conditioner,
so you
body
include
soap,
the soaps and the shampoos, and
right?
All that.
Right. I also
do you get the big ones that can be reused by the next guest, or are you getting the small hotel size?
the big ones. You go to Costco and get the big 128 ounces,
and that's okay. People don't mind using the same pump bottle that the previous person used.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct. Also provide body soap. We don't do bars of soap because those are, one and done. Nobody wants to come in and use a bar of soap that was on
that's got some hair
a stranger.
stuck to it.
Yeah, or hairs. There's that. I also provide toothpaste, and I bought a box of bulk toothbrushes because ultimately someone's going to forget theirs. I also buy, the disposable razors. To be honest, not a lot of people use them, but they're there if someone forgets theirs, and it's just a nice convenience factor. The next biggest thing I would suggest, if you're doing a vacation rental, is stock your kitchen very well. Provide everything and anything underneath the sun.
Are we talking about pots and pans and
Pots
plates
and pans,
or food,
plates,
or what
silverware. Food, I always keep my places stocked with your basic condiments, your ketchup, your salsa, your mustard, your hot sauce. Bottled water. I keep my fridge is stocked with bottled water. Cooking wise, I always have, a nice bottle of olive oil non-stick spray for when people cook, a nice selection of spices, salt and pepper, just kind of the basics, what you would have in your own home if you were just cooking a basic meal. You provide that for those folks.
Yeah. So here, I've got a pet peeve here.
Okay.
It seems like the last couple places I've stayed at, they've had the Teflon pans that are all scraped up. So the Teflon's like peeling off. Yeah. Stay away from those. Go with ceramic or something that's not going to peel and
Correct.
Poison the food that your tenants eating off of.
Yeah. And that's, one of the things that I do with my kitchens. I go for every new place that gets a brand new set of very nice pots and pans. So no Teflon. Things start wearing out, you just replace it. You don't want to risk a bad review because you've had one crappy little frying pan that one of your guests will focus on that one little thing because people like to complain if they don't have any. Anyway,
but it's interesting going back to the condiments in the fridge. It's interesting that because I never know if it's acceptable or not to leave condiments in the fridge.
Yeah,
because we'll travel and we'll go to the store and buy some things, buy supplies, and do I really want to carry mayonnaise, a squeeze bottle of mayonnaise around with me after I leave? So is it okay to leave it in the fridge?
Yeah. Part of our cleaning process is we go through the fridge, and a lot of people will leave a lot of their stuff. But if it's a specialty mustard, I'll leave it. If it's a bottle of ketchup, we keep track of the dates. If once they expire, they get thrown away. And if people want to use them, they're there for them. Some people don't mind. They don't expect. And I don't know if I've ever seen anybody like upend a bottle of ketchup and lick it and put it back. So it's you're squeezing.
You never know
with
kids. You never know what's going to happen.
True. But to answer your question, it's perfectly acceptable if it's something that we don't feel is going to keep, or just a specialty item that maybe very few people would like, we'll throw it out.
So what do you not do for your tenants? Are there things that you just expect them to take care of? I've certainly stayed at places where I'm expected to do the dishes before I leave, run the dishwasher, even start a load of laundry before I leave, sweep. The last place I stayed at, we were supposed to sweep up and vacuum. What's your take on that?
I do ask my guests to clean up after themselves before they go. Do I ask them to fully clean it? No. I ask that they put their dishes in the dishwasher if they have any pots and pans, to clean them. I do suggest that they start a load of linens in the laundry, especially the towels, before they go. Because in terms of turning a place over, the most time-consuming aspect of cleaning a house is the laundry. And the towels are the worst because they take the longest to dry. So I ask, if you have the time, please start, a load of towels, your dish towels, your hand towels. If you have time to put it in the dryer before you go, great. If not, not a big deal. But, I ask in a kind way and, say, hey, you'll greatly help out our housekeeper and, help us ready the home for the next guest if you do this for us. That's really it.
What's your experience with guests? Are they all pretty good about taking good care of the place, or have you had some bad experiences?
I've had some bad experiences, but mostly they are, I've had good experiences, which is why I really continue to do this.
Tell us about the bad experiences.
Oh boy. I had a group of guys come and stay at in Silver Lake. And when they booked, they presented themselves as like, we're a family looking to get together to spend the weekend on the dunes. And this gentleman had one review from prior stays. So I booked him without any really vetting him, and that was my mistake. Anyway, they came in, and it turned out to be, they said there was 4 people in the group. We found out there was a total of 8 people in the group when they actually showed up, and they partied like rock stars. They left. There was 12 empty cases of beer left in the unit. They didn't do any cleaning. The worst of it was they were smoking in the house, which, our house rules clearly state no smoking. And unfortunately, they decided to put out a few of those cigarettes on the nice new ash wood floors, leaving burn marks.
Wow. So what is your recourse then when that happens? How do you protect yourself?
Well, these folks booked through Airbnb, and Airbnb has got $1 million, insurance policy to cover yourself from situations like this. There's a process that you need to go through, or you need to document the issues first, bring it to the guest's attention, request a reasonable dollar amount repair to bring the home back to where it was before they damaged it. And if they don't agree to that, then you ask Airbnb to become involved. They assign what's called a case specialist, and they will do, independent research. They'll talk to both parties, try and figure out what really went on, and then they'll compensate you from there.
So what happened in your case?
Well, this one's still pending.
Oh, okay. So this happened recently then?
Yeah. This was about a month ago. This occurred. My issue with not having it resolved now is the location of the property and finding a skilled trade to go out, evaluate the damage to the wood floor, and give us a fair estimate.
So needless to say, that tenant got a bad review from you.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah. What else? Let's going along that line. What else can owners of vacation rentals do to protect themselves from bad renters?
Well, I've found that a lot of vacation rental owners, operate under the. I'm just blanking today. Where they feel that the more people they have in the property, the more money they can make, which is true, but more people, more problems. So my experience is that I keep occupancy low to prevent problems.
I don't quite follow.
Well, let's say you've got a 3-bedroom house. And in each of the bedrooms, you cram in 3 beds, or a bunk bed and a double bed. So, a home that was originally maybe designed for, 4 people, now you're putting in 10 to 12.
Okay.
So
by keeping occupancy low, you mean making it so that
less wear and tear,
less people can actually stay there.
Correct.
Not. You're still booking it out as much as you can.
Right.
But it's to a lower amount of people.
Correct.
Because 10 people are going to cause a lot more damage than 4 to 6 people.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, if my advice there is, again, just because you can fit, 8 beds in your home doesn't mean that you should. In fact, I would say that you shouldn't. I limit all my places to 2 people per queen bed, and it works out well for me. It's less wear and tear, less opportunity for cousin Eddie to come in and drink too much and fall into a lamp and break it. And then that's some of the risk. Not to mention the wear and tear on your mechanicals. You put 12 people into a property. I mean, that's 12 showers a day. That's 24 uses of the toilet. you don't know what people are flushing down there. You will increase your risk of having needing a service call, meaning a plumber, electrician, etc.
So it sounds like two people to a queen bed, maybe one queen bed per room.
Correct.
So a 3-bedroom house would have a
6.
maximum of 6 people.
Correct.
Well, that's good advice. Do you and in choosing what kind of beds, going back to the sort of the mattress thing, do you think queen beds are better than doubles or kings or bunk beds if you have kids? I mean, how do you usually portion that?
I prefer queen beds, although I may in some of my properties start putting king beds where the space allows. I don't know if there's much more I could say about that. Anything smaller than a queen, especially if you're asking, people to double up, if you're not a couple already, if you got brother and sister or sisters, brothers, or even, just friends, full bed is just a little too small to comfortably sleep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If I have a choice, I'll definitely not choose a full bed.
Yeah.
It's got to be at least a queen.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And let's talk about the rating system, because ratings are very important.
Yes.
Going both ways. Can you discuss that a little bit?
Yeah. In the terms of how the websites, when I say the websites, I mean Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway. The higher the rating of your property, the closer to the top of the search results you will be. When we talked about, years ago when search engine optimization, if you were on the second page of Google, you might as well not exist. Same sort of concept with with your vacation rentals. I mean, you want as highest placement on these pages to get the most amount of travelers.
And is it ratings that determine that, your placement?
Yeah. Ratings and, of course, price. But mostly especially with Airbnb, it's ratings. And, if you have, let's say, one property that's been established, they have, 100 ratings that are 5-star, and you have one property or a property that has one 5-star rating, the 100 property is going to be on the top left portion of that page. The 5-star rating with one rating is going to be way down on the bottom.
So you want to get as many 5-star ratings as possible.
Correct.
And how do you do that then? And by the way, let's just be clear. So
sure.
Ratings are when a renter stays with you, afterward, Airbnb or VRBO sends them a thing saying, hey, rate your experience.
Correct.
And they'll give you 1 to 5 stars.
Correct.
And maybe write a paragraph or two about what they liked,
Correct.
what they didn't like. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about ratings. You want to get the 5-star ratings in the survey that goes to the renter afterward. So how do you get that?
How do you get, it's providing a clean, comfortable space and exceeding people's expectations. I guess, again, I mentioned earlier that, you're in the hospitality business now. You're not just a landlord. So if you've taken the time to create an inviting environment at a reasonable price and keep it clean, you're going to get the 5-star rating. I also should add to that, communication with your guest as well. You need to be accessible. If they have a question, you need to answer it right away. If they have a problem, most typically they will send you a text message or send you a message through the Airbnb platform or HomeAway platform, whichever they've used. And you have to be accessible to respond to that. All of those factors combine into making a positive experience where people feel like they spent their money well and they were happy with where they were. And that's the key.
And then you rent or rate the renter as well.
I do.
Based on the condition and their communications with you.
I do.
What are the thought processes that go into that?
It's really just, I'll use the Airbnb platform. For example, before I came here today, in fact, I was catching up on all of my past guest reviews, so about 15 people I had to sort through and rate them. when I rate a traveler, the first thing I do is write a little blurb about who they were, what my experience was. And then I've got 4 categories where I can rate them 1 to 5. One is cleanliness, communication, how well they followed your house rules. Actually, there's only 3 categories there. And then you get to recommend them, thumbs up or thumbs down.
Mm-hmm. And this is something that the owners see, but the renters don't see.
That's correct.
Okay.
So you're almost relying upon, I feel like I'm a part of a community of folks who provide these places. And when someone requests to stay at my home, I'll look at the reviews because, I'm going to see what other people's expectations and experiences were. And if John down the street didn't like Mike, where, he left an extreme mess in his place, then you know what? I'm not gonna rent to Mike if he comes to me. The owners rely on one another to provide these reviews just to help each other out.
Yeah. So I want to tell you a story.
Okay.
After our panel back in February, we talked about the rating system and how important it is both ways. Mm-hmm. And I stayed with my family down south in Alabama somewhere. And my son and daughter stayed in this room upstairs, and my son got sick that night, threw up all over the bed and all over the floor. So I went to the Walmart Supercenter at midnight to buy cleaning supplies, and I just cleaned everything I possibly could. We washed everything we possibly could. And this was on an Easter Sunday. Oh, so this was like the Easter Sunday Eve.
Okay.
So I contacted the owner the next day through the messenger service. I think it was VRBO, and just let her know. I said, "Hey, my son threw up. I cleaned it up as best I could. We were staying there for the whole week. I said, feel free to send someone over to clean the carpet, and I'll pay for it or whatever." And she just replied and said, "Well, I'll take care of it after you guys leave. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
So she didn't seem to think it was a big deal. But when we left, I remembered what you guys had said during the panel about the rating. So I made sure I gave her a good 5-star rating and just raved about how great the place was.
Yeah.
And then I never got a bill or anything for
that's good.
Carpet cleaning.
That's great.
The advice I got from you guys in that panel helped out in that situation.
Well, I think the key thing of what you did there is you contacted the owner after it happened. Mm-hmm. And you set an expectation, and you said, "This is what happened. I'm willing to take care of it." This was certainly, it wasn't like your son went out and got drunk and threw up all over the place.
My 11-year-old son,
right? You're right. You had a bad fish taco or something.
Bad McDonald's milkshake.
Yeah, right.
Threw it up on the floor.
But
that's what happened.
Yeah, but what you did is, you were proactively communicating to that owner about what you did. That would have been an entirely different situation if you just cleaned it up yourself, didn't say anything about it. Maybe you didn't do a great job, and the owner came in to turn it over, and I was like, "Gosh darn it, there's
vomit.
There's vomit here,
chunks of vomit on the wall."
And that's when you would get a poor review.
Yeah,
but you did the right thing, so thank you.
Well, it helped. It helped to have listen to that panel. So I mean, do you have that kind of? I mean, because it's going to happen sometimes. It's not intentional, but people might have an accident or something might happen in your house.
Sure.
How have you seen people deal with it?
Unfortunately, the most of them don't do what you had done, which was being, communicated. They oftentimes we find it after the fact. And then it turns into, now I've got to communicate with them. Hey, found this in the house. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What's going on? And if it turns into, an extra hour, 2 hours worth of cleaning time for my cleaning person, I will request that from the guest.
Yeah, we even took the comforter that he had thrown up on, took it to the dry cleaner.
Yeah,
or the laundromat, and had it cleaned. Professionally.
I'm glad that you did. I had a family stay in one of my properties recently where, their 8-year-old had a bloody nose. And they tried to clean it, but
That's a tough thing to clean.
yeah. But I'll tell you, she didn't communicate it to me. She tried to clean it, and she couldn't get it done. She couldn't get it clean. And we came and we found, a blood stain on her duvet. So had she communicated that to me beforehand and said, hey, we had this happen, I couldn't get it out, I probably would have said, that's okay, that happens. And I would have absorbed the cost of buying another duvet cover. But since she didn't communicate it to me, I had to find it out after the fact. When she checked out on a Tuesday, I had other guests coming, that afternoon. I was like, you didn't allow me the time to prepare for this. So I asked her to compensate me for the cost of a new duvet. And she did. She was very quick about it. But, as an owner, it helps me prepare knowing if I had a problem in advance.
Yeah.
Because I don't want a new guest coming in
Seeing blood all over
and
the
seeing
duvet.
blood, because therefore now I get a bad review. Great space, but there was blood on the sheets.
Oh, God, that's not good.
No.
So just to recap then, if someone out there is thinking of doing a short-term vacation rental, Airbnb, VRBO, or whatever it is they want to do it through, what are the top things that they need to consider and get right?
Well, I'll start with, the old real estate adage, location, location, location. Make sure you're in a spot where you feel where people want to go. Always beach towns are great. Metro cities also great. There's always people coming and going. So make sure that if you're going out to do one on your own just as an investment, do your research first. Find a good spot where you feel like you can get as much occupancy in that property from the get-go. There's a couple great websites out there. One I like to use is called AirDNA, which gives you a great amount of statistics of metro areas where Airbnbs are shown to be prevalent, how many are currently operating, how many bookings, and that'll just give you a good idea of whether or not the location that you're choosing is a good one to invest
And
to do
that's
a short-term rental.
AirDNA?
Correct.
AirDNA, okay.
.com.
And does it also give you kind of the local laws and whether or not
No,
Airbnbs
you've got to
are-
do that on your own. You have to. It's a fair assumption that if you go to an area where you see a lot of Airbnbs available, you've got to assume that the laws will allow you to do that. But don't take my word for it. Do your research. Go to the county websites, research their zoning ordinances. Specifically, look for language for short-term or vacation rentals. Most likely, we'll see language that's saying short-term rentals. Short-term rentals are typically defined as a property being occupied less than 30 days by one person.
Great. What are there any other things that people should consider as they go into this?
Sure. When you're creating your space, creating a very welcoming, comforting environment, just high quality furniture, hire a decorator if you don't feel like you've got the best taste in the world. And just because you're hiring a decorator or you're furnishing things, the high quality doesn't mean you have to spend a lot. Target has great looking stuff that's not that expensive. Your TJ Maxx's of the world, your Home Goods. You can find high quality pieces for your home to create an inviting environment without spending a fortune. But with that as well, you make sure that your beds, we talked about the mattresses, high quality mattresses that are comfortable. If you wouldn't sleep on it, then don't expect somebody else to. High quality linens, something soft, super comfy. Same thing with your pillows. We've all, no, maybe not all, but when we travel, you go to a hotel and go, gosh, that pillow at the Westin was the best pillow I've ever found. Call the Westin, figure out where they get those pillows. Chances are, if you like it, somebody else is going to as well. The next thing I would say, once you're up and operating, make sure your place is clean. Clean. If it's not, you're going to get a poor review. Poor review leads to less bookings.
And that's something else I wanted to touch on is just finding the cleaning service.
Yeah.
Is it pretty standard to have cleaning services in any area that you can just hire to go in and do this? Or do you have to be particular about who you hire?
I'm in particular about who I hire. I'll put maybe I'll start with calling, asking around for referrals. But I'll call around to different services and I will meet with, either the individual cleaner or the company, tell them what I'm doing, tell them what I expect. And, it's creating an open and honest dialogue between your cleaner, setting expectations, you're more likely to succeed.
Yeah. Because you need a pretty responsive cleaning team to get there within that window that you require before your next tenant moves in.
Yeah. And, if you do it right, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've had this one young lady, her name is Donna, who handles almost all of my personal rentals. And she's been with me been doing this for 4 years now. So, she's my eyes and my ears. And, she knows all these properties like the back of her hands because oftentimes she's in there, each one of them 2-3 times a week. So if there's something missing, if there's something broken, she's there. She also knows what it takes to keep them clean and keep the reviews going. So I've had a great relationship with her, as well as the 3 other folks that I employ. They haven't been with me quite as long, but I spent the time up front with them, train them, and so far so good. No problems. I would say I would stay away from a service that sends different people every time, because they won't really know the place as well as
they're going to take ownership,
right,
responsibility over the house.
Right. And God bless Donna, who's been working with me. She takes ownership. If I get a bad review, she gets upset, and oftentimes we've had maybe one where it was, true. It wasn't something bad, but she took it to heart and was like, that's never going to happen again. I'm sorry. And I'm like, don't worry about it. You do a great job. But so, you said it best, they take ownership. You're likely to get a better environment when they're done.
Yeah. It seems like that's a key part, is having a cleaning crew that's going to go in and not just clean, but stock up for the next person. Right. If that falls apart or that doesn't get done right, then you're going to have bad reviews.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, what else? Is there any more to that list of just things to consider and things to make sure you get right? Well,
make sure you know who's staying in your place. Both, almost all of the platforms that we use, the online platforms, Airbnb, VRBO, TripAdvisor, etc., give you an opportunity to ask questions and to see who it is that is coming to stay in your place. You can typically get a very good idea of who they are, just by how they present themselves in their initial introductory email. If you're uncertain, just ask them some questions. And ultimately, I would tell owners, don't be afraid to say no. Even though you're looking at, keeping your property occupied to make the most amount of money, you don't want to do that for the sake of potentially having a problem. Often I compare it to, is like if you're just a standard landlord where you're looking at a 12-month lease, just because you have somebody who wants to rent your place, you don't necessarily have to rent it to them based on their background, based on their ability to pay, based on, how they present themselves, so be discerning, and you'll avoid some of the pitfalls that do come with the temporary housing, vacation rentals.
Great. And I want to make sure people understand that you manage as well.
I do.
So tell us about your company and the areas that you manage short-term rentals.
Sure. I own and operate Silver Lakes Property Management. You can find me online at silverlakespm.com or silverlakesvacationrentals.com. The vacationrentals.com site is primarily of a listing of all of my current available short-term rentals, both my personal inventory and places that I manage for others. In terms of management, I feel like we offer a pretty comprehensive service to different owners, and I think what differentiates us is that we offer, full service down to a la carte service. Meaning, if you tell me on the full service side, it's like, here's my property, I don't want to think about it, I just want to run a check or receive a check at the end of the month, that's what we do. Some folks just want us to book the property for them. We do that as well, and everything in between. And it's been pretty successful for us. I don't take on everybody. Before I take on a new client, I will go and thoroughly look at the property, do an evaluation of what I think would take to make it successful, and talk to the owners about their expectations and what they're willing to do to make it successful. And if it's a good fit, it's a good fit. And I'll take them on, but sometimes it's not.
And what area are you managing in?
I've got places, from Chicago up to Manistee at this point.
So anywhere from Chicago up to about Manistee, sort of, it's along Lake Michigan.
Yep. Yeah.
Midway up Michigan?
About 3/4.
Definitely north of Muskegon.
Yeah.
Grand Rapids.
Yeah. Manistee is about 20 miles north of Ludington, about 40 miles south of Traverse City.
Okay. Great. And if people wanted to get a hold of you?
They can reach me through our websites. There's an email form or contact form. And those websites, again, are silverlakespm.com and silverlakesvacationrentals.com. Or you can always email me at info@occupiedincorporated.com.
Great. Well, Frederick, I want to thank you for explaining all the nuts and bolts and the ins and outs of short-term vacation rentals.
Anytime.
It was really interesting when you did the panel with the group. That was great. But I'm so glad we had a chance to just sit down, you and I, talk about it, because I feel like I got a lot out of this conversation. Great. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I appreciate you having me on. And if you ever want to get into the nuts and bolts of anything else, give me a call. We'll do it.
Fantastic. This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.